Good morning and welcome to our annual meeting for authorized backflow prevention assembly testers and cross-connection control specialists. I'm Kenneth Payne, Chief Water Service Inspector. First, I'd like to introduce key members of the city's cross-connection control team. Besides myself, you might interact with several other staff. First, Sue Soterio is our Senior Water Service Inspector, taking over for Don Doe. Sue supervises water service inspectors who approve assemblies for containment on all new water service lines. The inspectors also supervise cross-connection shutdown tests on all dual plumb buildings with on-site non-potable water systems. Next, Richie Lau and Rosette Gray are our utility service representatives. Richie and Rosette are responsible for sending out notices for annual testing, and they also review all test reports for new or replaced assemblies. They also provide testers with PIC numbers when the mailing address is outside of San Francisco. Next up is Ivy Estacio. Ivy is our database administrator. She provides technical support for cross-connection control program software. At the Department of Public Health, we have Douglas Obana, who is a principal environmental health inspector overseeing the department's public health cross-connection control program. Arthur Decay is a senior environmental health inspector dedicated to the cross-connection control program. Arthur issues your permits to operate and maintains tester and test company information. He is also responsible for enforcement for testers and customers who do not comply with assembly testing requirements. At the Department of Building Inspection, Plumbing Inspection Division, we have David Gordon. David is a senior plumbing inspector who recently has taken over as our liaison with DBI for cross-connection control issues. Today, we'll be discussing the status of the cross-connection control program and reviewing highlights of responsibilities of testers in San Francisco. If you have questions, please enter them in the Q&A screen during the presentation. We will have Q&A afterwards. Please be aware this meeting is being recorded. After we finish our presentation, each of you will need to fill out our online attendance form. We will give you information about that at the end of the presentation. If you do not fill out the form, you will not receive credit for attending this meeting, and you will have to complete it online later. In 2025, the number of assemblies in San Francisco grew at an annual rate of about 2%, increasing by over 700 assemblies. The testing business continues to expand, and we expect to have over 37,500 assemblies in the city by the end of 2026. Instructions for authorized backflow prevention assembly testers have been updated and will soon be posted on our website, available at sfpUC.gov/backflow. Last September, we revised our rules and regulations, Section G, so it aligns more closely with the state cross-connection control policy handbook. These regulations apply to testers, specialists, and companies that employ them. So I highly recommend that you read them. There is a link to Section G on our website at sfpUC.gov/backflow. We also submitted our cross-connection control plan and program manual to the state as required by the policy handbook. The draft is also available on our website. Water Quality Division now requires that all buildings 4 or more stories tall or with water supply more than 40 feet above the water meter have RPs at the point of connection. Water Quality Division may allow double checks instead of RPs if flooding is a concern, meaning that RP would create a substantial risk of life or property. Property owner would have to apply for a variance from Water Quality Division. DCs installed before 2026 are considered to be in compliance although future replacements must be with an RP unless water quality authorizes a double check. We met with our advisory committee of volunteers from the tester community last October. We really appreciate the committee's feedback on our cross-connection control program. We discussed how different jurisdictions are conducting hazard assessments, which are required by the state's cross-connection control policy handbook. It was also suggested that Water Quality Division might require testers to use the only gauge approved by USC, which is a 3-needle valve arbiter. However, Water Quality Division currently has no plans to require this upgrade. Also at the meeting, we were asked about procedures for restricted spaces. If you believe that an assembly is in an unsafe location for testing, contact Water Quality Division, and if applicable, we will work with Environmental Health and DBI to try to address your concern. Please send us pictures of your safety concerns. We had a question about DBI approval or rejections of drains for installed RPs. If you have a specific question, you can ask DBI during the question and answer period or as issues arise. We had a question about whether failed or unrepairable DCs on buildings with low hazards could be replaced with double checks rather than RPs. Building owners may apply for a variance, which Water Quality Division will consider on a case-by-case basis. Another question was whether or not to test an assembly with inadequate clearance or no drain. Assemblies with inadequate clearance should not be tested and should be entered as in violation in CCAMs. If an RP does not have a drain, you may still test the assembly, but please note that the lack of drain in the comment section in CCAM so we can follow up. In case of a violation, I recommend that you enter the violation in CCAMs as soon as possible to make sure the property owner won't be able to hire another company to test the assembly and enter the test results into CCAMs. At this point, I will turn the presentation over to Rosette.
Good morning. Once a backflow prevention assembly passes, it must be tagged with the backflow tag for the current year. Bypass assemblies are listed separately on the test form and will require their own results and backflow tag upon completion. Please write the month and the day the backflow device was tested on the tag. It's possible that an assembly might need to be tested twice in the same year to meet the compliance requirements. When this is necessary, the current year's backflow tag will be placed on the device on top of the previous year's tag. The cost of 2026 backflow tags are $30. The price will remain the same through 2027. In-person tag purchases can be made at 525 Golden Gate Avenue, first floor, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Please keep in mind Customer Service Bureau and Water Quality Division will be closed on Monday, January 19th, 2026, in observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Only authorized backflow prevention assembly testers and up to 2 designated representatives per testing company may purchase backflow tags. When purchasing backflow tags, official identification such as a driver's license and name of the company being represented must be shown and validated. There is an unlimited amount of backflow tags you can purchase in person. Just remember the backflow tag exchange limit when purchasing tags towards the end of the year. To purchase tags by mail, print the order form that can be downloaded from our website, sfpuc.gov www.cms.gov/backflow. Please note, if you complete the form online, the dollar amount will calculate for you. The minimum purchase amount by mail is 10 tags. You may mail in a purchase request or drop it off in the night mailbox outside the entrance of 525 Golden Gate Avenue. For faster service, drop off your request by 8 a.m. Customer Service Bureau will mail your tags within 5 business days of receiving a request. We are continuing backflow tag exchanges through the end of January 2026. Test companies may make a one-time exchange of up to 100 2025 backflow tags for an equivalent amount of 2026 tags. This means 100 tags per company using one form, not 100 tags per tester. To make an exchange, complete a request to exchange backflow tag form and mail it or drop it off at Customer Service Bureau with a valid form of payment. Exchanges can only be done via mail or drop off in the night mailbox. Requests must be postmarked by January 31st, 2026. The backflow tag exchange form is on our website at sfpuc.gov/backflow. The fee for an exchange is $15 for any number of tags up to the maximum of 100. We are currently in the process of upgrading our assembly tracking software to replace CCAMs. The new software will have similar capabilities as CCAMs, but will have a better user interface. It will be more manageable to navigate, find information, and enter test results. We will keep you posted as production approaches final stages. Testers will be notified in advance when it's time to register for the new software. Water Quality Division's software team will provide guidance on how to use it before the official launch. A few things to keep in mind about CCAMS accounts. If you work for more than one company, you need a separate email address and password for each company. For example, if you work for 3 different companies, you'll need 3 separate accounts. To add an account, contact Environmental Health. The contact information is given in the instructions for testers on our website. When entering test results, be sure to enter them under the company you are representing for that location. CCAMS allows separate administrator accounts called supervisor accounts. These accounts provide a delegate to have read-only access to all the test reports submitted by the company. The person does not actually need to be a supervisor. If the supervisor is also a tester, he or she will need a separate tester account to enter test results. If you forget your password, click I forgot, and a temporary password will be sent to the email account in your CCAMS profile. If you enter an incorrect password 5 times, you will be locked out of your CCAMS account. This message is in red print. This message in red print will appear. You have reached the maximum number of failed logins. If this happens, contact Water Quality Division for a temporary password to log in and reset your password. Please make your passwords memory friendly. If you work for more than one company, consider using the same password for your logins. Expiration of tester certificate insurance or test kit calibration will give you this message in red print telling you the problem. To unlock your account due to expired documentation, email Environmental Health your renewed documents. There are times when electronic copies are sent to the Backflow mailbox. Not to worry, that email with all attachments are forwarded to Department of Health for processing. Water Quality, which is Richie and myself, can only assist you with unlocking CCAMS accounts for too many failed login attempts. Just a friendly reminder, it is the tester's responsibility to monitor their expirations of credentials. Please do not ignore your alerts and reminders that you receive for upcoming renewals. CCAMS does not have a grace period. I would like to ask all testers to be mindful when contacting Water Quality Division, my team, when your credentials are out of compliance. Your patience is greatly appreciated when waiting for reinstatement, but rudeness will not be tolerated. Customers can sign up for a CCAMS account in a few minutes, and their accounts will be approved within 1 business day. CCAMS accounts allow customers to choose one or more preferred test companies and have those companies notify when their assemblies are due for testing. If you are listed as a preferred test company, you should be able to plan testing activities more efficiently. Please encourage your customers to sign up. There's a link in the CCAMS customer user guide on the Cross Connection Control Program website. Water Quality Division's website for Cross Connection Control is sfpuc.gov/backflow. There's a link for testers and specialists in the upper right corner of the web page. Click on it and you will be directed to the tester section. You also have the option to use the URL sfpuc.gov/backflow-testers to go directly to the tester section. A hard copy of the Backflow Prevention Assembly test form is sent to customers along with the notice indicating that testing is due. You can use this form as a reference for information related to the Backflow Prevention Assembly. You may obtain these forms from the customer or download them from CCAMS. If you choose to download them, you need the PIC number. You will automatically receive the PIC number if your customer created a CCAMS account and listed you as a preferred tester. You can also contact the Water Quality Division, including by email, backflow@sfwater.org, including the customer on your request for approval. Be on the lookout for multiple service connections, especially when testing at an unfamiliar location. There can be more than one PIC number, each associated with a different service connection. Very often, customers are not aware they have more than one service connection and mistakenly think that multiple notices are duplicates. Customers who don't have PIC numbers can call Water Quality Division. The number is listed on the Cross Connection Control Program's website, sfpuc.gov/backflow, and in the instructions for testers. The customers need to have the service address, SPID, or serial number. If a property has multiple service connections, they need to provide the service address. In general, only the customer, not the tester, may obtain PIC numbers from the Cross Connection Control Program if the test notice is sent to a San Francisco address. Remember that customers can authorize their testers via email to get PIC numbers directly from SFPUC. For example, if you notify your customer via email that their assemblies need testing, copy backflow@sfwater.org on the original message and ask the customer to reply all to authorize the release of the PIC numbers. PIC numbers will be emailed to the testers within 1 working day. Alternatively, if a tester can provide Water Quality Division with written proof of customer authorization for testing, the Water Quality Division may release PIC numbers directly to testers. Proof might be a testing contract or email correspondence between the tester and the customer. And of course, if your customer is signed up with the CCAMS account and selects you as a preferred tester, you'll automatically receive the notices of testing due with PIC numbers. Test results must be entered into CCAMS within 5 business days of the test date unless an assembly fails testing and cannot be repaired the same day. When this occurs, enter the results in the initial test results area of the test form. Contact the customer to request authorization to repair the assembly or recommend that it be replaced. If the assembly cannot be repaired or replaced the same day, you must enter the test results into CCAMS the day of the test, and the Department of Health will be automatically notified of the failure. After entering test results into CCAMs, you have a 5-day window to modify the results. If you need to make modifications after 5 business days, call Water Quality Division for assistance. Our number is available on our website. Entering a failed test result causes an assembly to be routed to environmental health for enforcement action, and entering a past test result shows an assembly compliant for the respective year. Once a past test result is entered for an assembly, the PIC number can no longer be used to access the assembly in CCAMs. After entering test results into CCAMs, you have a 5-day window. Okay, I told you that. Okay, next slide. No. To modify test results within the 5-day window, go to Test Management, then Test History Search, find the assembly, and click Edit. When test results are not entered into CCAMs by the 10th of the month following the test month, CCAMs generates the second notice informing the customer their test results are due in 15 days. If test results aren't received within 65 days, then environmental health sends the owner a notice of violation. If a customer receives any one of these notices after having paid for testing and they contact the Backflow team, we will assist the customer accordingly when there's cross entry. If there is anything beyond cross entry, we will advise the customer to contact the tester for an explanation that includes the process and procedure of entering test results. Customers can call Water Quality Division to check on the compliance status of their assemblies. Going to turn the presentation over now to Richie Lab.
Okay. Hello, everybody. All right, so I'd like to start the discussion of new installations with a poll. Okay, a customer needs to have a new backflow prevention assembly tested and contacts a tester. The tester says that he needs a PIC number before coming out. Is this true? All right, the answer is no. A PIC number is not required to submit test results for a new backflow prevention assembly. PIC numbers are only required for assemblies that are already in CCAMs. New installations must be entered into CCAMs on the Assembly Management/Add Assembly tab. Note that this form should only be used in 3 cases. Number 1, for an assembly that has never existed at the service address and is not a replacement for a previous assembly. Number 2, for an assembly that does not have a backflow tag. In this case, inform the customer and ask for permission to test the assembly. Number 3, the third case is for an assembly not on the site's paperwork, but that has an out-of-date backflow tag. Please call Water Quality Division to confirm whether or not the assembly serial number is in CCAMs. We've had several instances of testers, mostly new testers, entering test results for assemblies already in CCAMs as a new installations. This leads to duplicate entries, and since the test results aren't linked to the original CCAMs account, the customer will receive a second notice of testing due and perhaps a notice of violation from environmental health. Please be sure that an assembly is actually a new installation before entering it as one. If in doubt, contact Water Quality Division and we'll check CCAMs to see if the assembly's serial number has already been entered. If an assembly has a backflow prevention assembly test form, it's already in CCAMs and test results should be entered using the PIC number on the form. When entering a new installation, start on the Assembly Management/Add Assembly tab. Please enter the meter number at the service connection because it's really helpful for associating the correct customer with a particular backflow prevention assembly. Enter the assembly orientation. The drop-down menu on the new installation form only includes USC-approved orientations, so you won't be able to enter an incorrect orientation. You can also check the correct orientation on USC's website at usclist.com. If a correct orientation is not shown in the drop-down menu, email Water Quality Division at backflow@sfwater.org. If we confirm the orientation on the USC website, we'll add the orientation to CCAMs. The same goes for make, model, and size. If CCAMS is missing a USC approved assembly, please let us know. You can rely on an assembly cut sheet. Assemblies must be installed in the orientation approved by USC. If you're not familiar with all the orientations, USC provides an orientation key for reference. These orientations should be used when you are entering new installations or updating assembly information in CCAMS. Be sure to note the direction of the water flow through the assembly and the shutoff valves. If a new assembly is in violation, check the in violation box in the unable to test section. Examples of the violations include modifications, incorrect orientation, or an assembly that is not on USC's list of approved assemblies. If you cannot test a new assembly for a different reason, email Water Quality Division with the assembly's make, model, serial number, size, location, and hazard if you know it. For example, you might not be able to test because an assembly has no water supply, or the customer will not give you permission to test it. Once we have the assembly information, we will enter it into CCAMS and send the customer a notice to test the assembly. For an assembly not on the site's paperwork with a backflow tag that is out of date, call Water Quality Division, which will either provide a PIC number or ask that the assembly to be entered as a new assembly. A quick comment about the comments field. CCAMS give testers several opportunities to enter comments. Please only enter information that is actionable for the water quality staff, such as a correction for a serial number, a hazard, protection type, or assembly location. If any part of the serial number, make, model, and size needs to be correct, please provide all the information for the assembly. Please do not leave personal field notes that don't need to be reviewed by water quality staff. Effective today, we now require the testers record the initial and final line pressures for all passing tests in CCAMS. CCAMS now accepts results of air gap inspections. So far, Water Quality Division has been inspecting air gaps, but starting today, we will accept inspection reports by authorized testers and specialists. To access this screen, go to Assembly Management tab. To add a new air gap, click on Add Assembly and choose Air Gap. Obviously, a serial number isn't applicable. Neither is the assembly information. You will need to enter the supplied pipe diameter and the distance of the air gap. If the air gap conforms to California Plumbing Code requirements, affix a backflow tag on the supply line near the air gap, if convenient, or other suitable locations. For new installations, please submit 2 photos, one close up, preferably including a ruler or a gauge next to the air gap, and 1 photo showing the affixed backflow tag. For an existing assembly, you'll use a PIC number to reach this screen as you would for an assembly. For existing assemblies, please submit a photo of the current affixed backflow tag. You must select whether an assembly is for containment at the service connection or isolation of an internal hazard. The choice affects the hazard types that are available in the drop-down menu. Consider asking the building owner or the building manager what assembly is supplying water to if it isn't obvious. If a hazard isn't in the drop-down menu, please select Other and describe the hazard in the comments field. You can also email Water Quality Division to ask about adding a new hazard. Select the correct hazard level. Remember that a high hazard designation is for containments which pose a hazard to human health. A low hazard designation is for pollutants, which adversely affect the aesthetic quality of water for domestic use. Under assembly location, try to be specific as possible. For example, 2nd floor, left wall of utility closet J2. If the assembly is in a multi-unit building, be sure to specify which unit. We also need the permit number for the installation. Most permits will have an issued by DVI, but even if a permit number was issued by another permitting authority, please enter it in this field. Ask the customer to provide that number either to you or to Water Quality Division by phone or email. If you know you'll be testing a new installation, let the customer know you'd like a permit number before you go to the site. If a permit wasn't pulled for the installation or the permit has expired, environmental health will send the customer a notice informing that they need to pull or extend their permit with DBI. We'll talk more about permits later in the presentation. When you enter a bypass assembly, be sure to list the serial number of the main line assembly in the comments field. Once you have entered all the information for a new installation and click on Submit, you'll see the screen for uploading photos and files. Please upload at least 2 photos, one close-up showing the make, model, and serial number, and a second showing the installation. If you want to make a comment, it's best to do so before you select the files for upload. Sometimes you might be hired to test assemblies at construction sites before the address or eventual owner has been determined. You might be given an address that is only temporary or one address that is associated with multiple buildings. When the Water Quality Division later tries to associate assemblies with the correct water service, it can be difficult since the address might have changed. In these cases, it would be very helpful if you can provide photos of the surroundings to provide context. There's been some confusion about when to enter an assembly as a new installation or a replacement. And apparently new assembly that has a serial number different from the one on the site's paperwork, but the same size and type of assembly supplying the same piece of equipment in the same location is likely a replacement. Inform Water Quality Division and upload photos using the request feature in CCAMs. Shiny new assemblies without a backflow tag on new piping are obviously new and should report on the new installation form. Don't worry if you didn't do the replacement yourself. We just need to be able to link the new and old assemblies in CCAMs. When an existing backflow prevention assembly is being changed out, the new assembly must be entered into CCAMs as a replacement assembly. If the assembly being replaced was tested, be sure to record the results of the test in the initial test area of the form. For the new assembly, mark the checkbox next to replacement information below and enter the replacement information in the fields provided. Then record the test results for the new assembly in the final test area of the form. It is important that the information for both the old and new assemblies be reported on the same form. That way, the correct serial number and associated assembly will be inactivated, and the old and new assemblies will be tied together in CCAMs. Entering the replacements in CCAMs can be a bit tricky when DCDA Type 2s and RPDA Type 2s are involved. CCAMs considers a DCDA and DC bypass to be different assemblies requiring 2 tags, and 2 entries for test results. However, a DCDA Type 2 or an RPDA Type 2 is considered one assembly in CCAMs. Therefore, sometimes a replacement is considered 1 for 1 and sometimes 1 for 2 in CCAMs. If an assembly with a bypass is replaced with a DCDA Type 2 or RPDA Type 2, then report the new assembly on the same form as the removed main line assembly. Report the removal of the bypass assembly separately by selecting Unable to Test and then Removed. If a DCDA Type 2 or a RPDA Type 2 is replaced with an assembly having a bypass, then report the new mainline assembly on the same form as the removed DCDA Type 2 or the RPDA Type 2 and report the new bypass assembly as a new installation. Be sure to report the removal of bypasses in CCAMs. This is important because otherwise your customer will receive a test notice for the removed bypass. Removals must be recorded in CCAMs. For example, if you get to a site to test an assembly and it isn't there, report it in CCAMs. Go to the Unable to Test screen and check Removed. Enter the plumbing permit ID if you know it. If not, click the No Permit button and the assembly will be referred to environmental health as removed without a permit. This screen has options for other permitting jurisdictions besides DBI. You will need to enter whether or not the hazard was removed along with the assembly. For example, a boiler associated with an RP. You will also need to confirm the hazard type. If you happen to know that the assembly will be replaced, for example, as part of a remodel report that removal of the original assembly as soon as you are aware of it. If you are hired to test the replacement assembly sometime later, do not enter it as a new installation. Just send an email to backflow.sfwater.org and we will reactivate the removed assembly in CCAMs. Then you'll be able to enter the results for a new assembly on a replacement screen. If customers want to provide Water Quality Division with preferred contact information that is different from their billing contact information, they should contact Water Quality Division at backflow@sfwater.org. You can also change test dates to another month or syncing multiple accounts. For the initial change, some assemblies might need to be tested more than once in that year of the change. Next up is Arthur Duque, Senior Health Inspector of Environmental Health. Arthur is a senior inspector working with the Cross Connection Control Program.
All right, good morning, everyone. Approved assemblies and correct installation. All assemblies installed in San Francisco must be on USC's list of approved backflow prevention assemblies. USC updates its list throughout the year, and foundation members can sign up to receive notifications when updates are released. Assemblies are only approved if they are installed in the tested configuration and orientation. At the start of your testing, carefully identify and inspect each assembly to ensure that the test form information is consistent with what you are testing and that there are no violations or modifications that would invalidate the assembly approval. The USC list of approved assemblies is available at usclist.com. They also have files available for download. Please use these resources so that you can verify assembly information in the field or office. Pay careful attention to approval details such as meters, shutoffs, bypasses, orientation, and lead content. Note that the Cross Connection Control Policy Handbook lists acceptable ASSE international standards for certain backflow prevention assemblies, and we will accept assemblies meeting those standards. Modifications. Any modification of an assembly, such as an installation of an unapproved orientation, removing shutoff valves, bypass arrangements, or placing Ls or other fittings between the body and the shutoff valves, invalidates the certifying organization's approval. Testers should also pay attention to the assembly rotation along its axis. Rotating the main body of an assembly and or the shutoff valves invalidates the approval. The only exception allowed by USC is that flange shutoff valves 2.5 inches or larger may be rotated by one bolt hole. The USC Foundation identifies an assembly as a unit from shutoff valve to shutoff valve. Therefore, modifications between the shutoff valves are considered modifications to the assembly and are not allowed. On the other hand, modifications upstream of the number 1 shutoff valve or downstream of the number 2 shutoff valve are not considered modifications that would invalidate approval. For example, placing a Y strainer upstream of the number 1 shutoff valve is allowed. However, if the Y strainer is installed between the shutoff valve and the main body, it is considered a modification, and that invalidates the approval. Reporting in violation assemblies. Testers are responsible for identifying and reporting problems in the field. In particular, if you see a cross connection or observed backflow, report it immediately to Water Quality Division by emailing or calling the same day. Please do not assume that an assembly is approved if it was just installed or tested previously. If you find an assembly that has been modified or is in violation for some reason, report the information in CCAMs by clicking the link Unable to Test. Then select In Violation and choose the violation types. Please select all violations that apply and describe them in the comments field. Do not test the assembly and do not submit a failed test. The violations will need to be corrected before the assembly is unlocked and tests can be submitted in CCAMs. After submitting an assembly as in violation, you have the option of uploading photos of the untestable assembly. The upload screen will look like the one that Water Quality showed for new installations and replacements. Please use this upload functionality instead of emailing photos directly to Water Quality. Violation types. When marking an assembly as in violation in CCAMs, select the best reason or reasons why the assembly is in violation. Selecting all relevant violation types is important as they might be used in the notice of violation by Water Quality Division staff when talking to confused customers. by plumbers correcting the violations, or by other testers. If you would like more information or examples of all violation types, please refer to the cross-connection control handout. All right, it's participation time. Now that we've reviewed the violation types, let's check the knowledge. Examine the following scenarios as if you were out in the field preparing to test the backflow assemblies. Are the assemblies allowed, or should they be marked in violation? After showing each photo, we'll switch to the poll where you'll be able to select yes or no. For each scenario, please think about what violation types you may need to report in CCAMs. However, please disregard violations that are difficult to confirm from the photos provided. All right, examine the backflow installation in the photo. Is it installed in an approved orientation? Although it may be hard to see all the details in the photo, are there obvious violations you should report? All right, the answer is no. The assembly is not installed correctly and should be marked in violation with the violation type wrong orientation. Incorrect orientations. Remember to check the approved orientations on the USC list or ASSE standard. USC has only approved the 2000 SS shown in the pole photo in the horizontal orientation. Therefore, the backflow assembly in pole number 1 is considered in violation as it is installed in a vertical orientation. It should not be tested until it is reoriented to a horizontal orientation or replaced. Also, if an assembly is installed in a vertical orientation, check the water flow to confirm the assembly is oriented correctly, as the approval may only be for one direction. USC approvals differentiate between vertical up and vertical down. Please be aware that testers continue to find DCDA and RPDA orientation violations on fire services. Currently, I do not believe there are any detector assemblies approved in the vertical down orientation. Therefore, if you see any in a vertical down orientation in the field, they should immediately send up a red flag. Poll number 2, examine the backflow prevention assembly in the photo. Is it properly installed? If not, what violation types would you report? No, the assembly should be marked in violation with the violation types assembly rotated and less than 12 inches. Both the main assembly and bypass assembly are rotated approximately 180 degrees, invalidating the USC approval. The ceiling is at the top of the photo, and the assemblies are rotated, so they are upside down. The assemblies will need to be rotated 180 degrees so that they are right side up and lowered so that there's adequate clearance from the ceiling. Additionally, the support braces or straps around the main body should be relocated to provide proper access to the assembly for maintenance. All markings must be cast on the body or stamped, engraved, or etched on a nameplate permanently attached to the body. And they should either be located on the top or both sides of the body. Therefore, an identification tag on the bottom of an assembly should send up a red flag since it suggests the assembly has been rotated. This RP is rotated on its axis 90 degrees and would be considered in violation. The assembly should be reported in CCAMs as in violation with the violation type assembly rotated. The last poll, you are called to test a newly installed 3/4 inch Wilkins 950 XL protecting a soda carbonator in a restaurant. Does this assembly provide adequate protection? If not, why not? No, the assembly does not provide adequate protection for a carbonator. The assembly should be marked in violation with the violation type inadequate protection. This is a DC. Soda machines and beverage carbonators in San Francisco require an RP. There's an exception if the entire system does not contain copper pipe, but this is rare. In addition, please keep in mind that all piping material downstream of the RP must not be made of copper, brass, or other materials affected by carbon dioxide. A second reason the assembly is in violation is because of the lead content. All piping, fittings, fixtures, and backflow prevention assemblies intended to convey potable water for human consumption and installed after January 1st, 2010 are required to meet lead-free requirements. Permits to operate. All testers and specialists operating in the city must maintain a valid permit to operate from the San Francisco Department of Public Health, Environmental Health Branch. There are 2 types of different permits: authorized backflow prevention tester and authorized cross-connection control specialist. The permit to operate is issued when your permit application is approved by Environmental Health. To maintain a valid permit, you must abide by tester and specialist responsibilities. You'll need to submit your backflow prevention assembly tester certification from AWWA or another approved testing organization every 3 years, or your cross-connection control specialist certification every 2 years. Testers will have to submit test kit calibrations annually, and general liability insurance, $2 million each occurrence combined single limit. For testers who won't be testing assemblies in San Francisco, we're still considering insurance requirements. Testers and specialists will also have to attend our annual tester meeting or complete the alternative webinar and abide by the San Francisco rules and regulations for backflow testers and specialists. I'm also pleased to announce that as of April 1st of this year, the city will not be charging an annual license fee to renew your permits to operate. Testers should keep an eye out for alerts when they log into CCAMs. On the home screen, alerts appear for liability insurance, test kit calibrations, and backflow tester certifications that will be expiring. Email notifications may also be sent to the tester or test company from CCAMs. To maintain an active permit and prevent getting locked out of CCAMs, email copies of your current documentation to Environmental Health at least a week before the expiration dates. Building and license certificates. The permit and license belong to the tester, but the certificates will be mailed to the testers at their company address. The billing cycle runs from April 1st to March 31st of the following year. Licenses are mailed out by the city tax collector. Remember to notify Environmental Health of employment and address changes so that you receive your license in the mail. If you do not receive your license, please contact Environmental Health. Our goal is to encourage compliance with tester responsibilities to support the cross-connection control program. Our intention is not to be punitive. However, tester permits to operate may be suspended or revoked for violations including late entry of test results more than 5 business days after the test. We are emphasizing enforcement for late entries that trigger the next action. Although you should always try to submit results within 5 business days, we understand that the circumstances occasionally prevent this from happening. However, late test results can confuse or frustrate customers, create unnecessary work for cross-connection control program staff, and interfere with the status of backflow prevention assembly compliance in San Francisco. At the beginning of the next month, another action will occur, such as a second notice from Water Quality Division, a notice from a violation from Environmental Health, and a citation and/or administrative penalties. Therefore, at the end of each month, please double check to make sure you have submitted all tests for that month. Permits may also be suspended for other reasons, such as failure to attend annual tester meetings or take the online training. All testers not attending the meeting today are required to complete the alternative webinar. Testing modified or unapproved assemblies or not following testing procedures in USC's Manual of Cross-Connection Control, 10th edition, or the most current edition. Failure to submit accurate test results. Falsification of test results, for example, entering the incorrect test date to appear to be submitting results within 5 business days of testing. It is better to submit a late test than to falsify information. Failure to submit required documentation such as insurance and tester certifications to Environmental Health. Enforcement actions against testers may include warning letters, notices, and citations to conferences and administrative hearings. Testers must contact Environmental Health to ensure necessary updates are made to your permit, license, and profile when changing in employment or working for an additional testing company. Updating contact information such as an address, phone number, or email, or you stop working in San Francisco. Notifying Environmental Health in this case is important so that we can close out your permit. Similarly, companies employing testers and specialists are required to register with Environmental Health and notify us when a tester or specialist is added or removed from the company or agency. A renewal form is required when companies need to update contact information such as their email, phone number, mailing address, or website. This is important for updating our records, maintaining the tester specialist list, and for license purposes. Companies are also responsible for maintaining general liability insurance and submitting insurance certificates to Environmental Health. We understand that who to contact can be confusing given that several agencies are involved with the city's cross-connection control program, so we'll go over it here. This information is also provided in the instructions for authorized backflow prevention testers on the SFPUC website and in the cross-connection control handout that will be emailed to testers. Calling or directing emails to the appropriate entity will help you receive a faster response. In general, contact SFPUC Water Quality Division regarding PIC numbers or pre-printed test forms, changing or synchronizing test months, photos, correspondence for in violation assemblies that are locked in CCAMs, CCAMs technical issues or being locked out due to too many failed login attempts, backflow tag questions and issues, submitting plumbing permits not submitted in CCAMs, customers inquiring about mailing address options, and questions about testing notices or other general cross-connection control issues. On the other hand, please contact Environmental Health for obtaining and canceling permits to operate, backflow tester certification renewals, submitting your certificate of liability insurance, test kit calibration documentation, updating test company and contact information, test company registration or renewals, and questions about notices of violation. Please email me at cross.connection@sfdph.org to correspond with me directly. Next up is Senior Inspector David Gordon at the Department of Building Inspection, Plumbing Inspection Division. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Please contact the Department of Building Inspection, Plumbing Inspection Division for plumbing permit assistance and scheduling. Most scheduling can be done online. If city agencies have assemblies on property under DBI jurisdiction, they are also required to obtain necessary plumbing permits from DBI Plumbing Inspection. A few exceptions don't fall under our jurisdiction. These facilities include hospitals and other locations under the California Department of Healthcare Access and Information, previously OSHPD, and those under the Division of the State Architect or the State Fire Marshal. For those facilities, please contact the appropriate authority having jurisdiction for assistance. Only a licensed contractor may install, remove, replace, or relocate a backflow prevention assembly. A plumbing permit for the work must be obtained from DBI Plumbing Inspection Division. City plumbers may also pull permits. Contact DBI if you have any questions. Installations, including a bypass to an existing assembly, replacements, relocations, and removals require a plumbing permit. If you have questions regarding plumbing permits or the permit process, please contact our office. Plumbing permits can be pulled using the online permit website or by visiting our office at 49 South Van Ness on the second floor. Once a permit is pulled, plumbing inspections can be scheduled online or by calling inspection services or by calling our automated scheduling number. The DBI permit tracking website can be used to check the status of a permit. In CCAMs, you'll need to enter the permit number when submitting new installations, replacements, and/or removals. If you do not have the permit number when you are submitting the test, you or the customer must provide the completed permit number to Water Quality Division later. If a facility does not fall under DBI jurisdiction, submit the approval or permit information from the authority having jurisdiction and indicate the authority issuing the permit. As a reminder, DBI plumbing permits start with the letter P. Please be aware that building permits are not accepted in lieu of a plumbing permit. To ensure that the Water Quality Division has the information it needs to approve the new installations, replacements, and/or removals, and to unlock assemblies, ensure that the permit description is detailed. Clearly describe the action you are taking, the hazard and location of the assembly, and, if possible, the assembly's serial number. The location and hazard and/or assembly serial number are especially important when there are multiple hazards and assemblies at the same address. Please be advised that vague permits may not be accepted. For example, a permit description of, quote, backflow certification, unquote, is not adequate for confirming the installation of an assembly on a soda carbonator in a restaurant located in a mall with one standard service. Examples of better permit descriptions are removal of the basement boiler and Wilkins RP backflow serial number such and such, lower and replace Febco 825Y assembly serial number such and such with Wilkins RP on the roof chiller, installation of a 4-inch Derringer 30 DCDA Type 2 for the fire sprinkler system in Suite 100. In rare cases, a vague permit description can be updated or revised before the final inspection. However, to revise the description, you'll have to speak directly with the chief or a senior plumbing inspector. As a reminder, if a permit was not completed when an assembly was initially submitted in CCAMs, notify water quality when the permit is completed so they can update their information in the database.